Hey everyone, and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Melissa Ash. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Monday. And I wanted to update you guys. I know we've had what was a developing story, Rod Rosenstein, Attorney General, and whether he's going to resign or he's going to be fired. He's at the White House. So there were a lot of Right Side Broadcasting different reports. Ash, thank you so much for tuning in on this Monday. Anyway, sorry about that. There were a lot of different reports that came out this morning just from various news sources. Some were saying that he is going to be fired. Some were saying that he has already turned in his resignation letter to John Kelly. But President Trump is not even at the White House. He's at a United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York. So I've been following this story all morning. Just wanted to get you guys the latest and most accurate information. And now, since President Trump is not there, President Trump will meet with Rosenstein on Thursday. So Thursday is going to be a very, very busy day. So stay tuned for that. Unfortunately, this story not exactly as exciting as we had hoped. A lot of people right now are wondering if maybe it was just kind of conjured up as a distraction from everything going on with Judge Kavanaugh, and if maybe the White House possibly wanted this story to kind of take some of the limelight away from Kavanaugh's second accuser. And I'll be diving into that a little bit more during my nightly news recap tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'm sorry. So stay tuned for that. But also, I want to look at the articles and I want to go through with you guys what really did happen this morning, which honestly turned out to be nothing, but want to talk about what was discussed in the media. And also, I will be checking your questions and comments. So I want to know if you think Rosenstein is a good attorney general, if he should keep his position, or if he should be fired, or if he should resign. Now, the difference if he's fired or if he resigns, so why it matters is because the Federal Vacancies Reform Act gives President Trump the power to appoint an acting attorney general if it's a resignation. So that is just what we're going to have to check on Thursday. And I will be pulling up more information through this broadcast. I want to give you guys the most accurate information and see what you guys think as well. Also love interacting with you. So if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with me, please send them to me on Twitter at AlyssaRSBN. That would be so appreciated. And I'm going to throw up my Twitter handle real quick for you guys at AlyssaRSBN. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure to send them my way. And also wanted to shout out some of our great moderators in the chat room. Thank you so much, Barbara Braley, for being here, keeping the chat room clean. And RSBN moderator is here. And let's see who else is here. We also have some members, Zoom JC, and shout out to my dad, Gregory Ash. Hope you are having a great day. And let's see, P-Cell is in the house. And like I said, really want to know your thoughts about Rosenstein. So let me know. Let's see. Yes, JC, he is meeting with President Trump on Thursday. And I will be checking those Facebook comments as well, just to see if you guys have any questions. Tangela Abernathy wants him to be fired. And wow, we just got a $10 donation over on YouTube from Lady Justice. Thank you so much for that. Who says, sending good thoughts from those of us at Patriot Soapbox 24/7. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, Lady Justice. Really appreciate you guys. It was really fun to actually meet some of you from Patriot Soapbox at the last couple rallies. I think it was Las Vegas that I was able to meet Karen from Patriot Soapbox, and she was super nice. You guys are a fantastic group of people, so really thankful that we can all partner together. And we do have more rallies coming up that I want to announce to you guys. One of them is confirmed and not quite sure if the other is yet, so hold on. Okay, so the one that's confirmed that I can tell you for sure, we will be going to Wheeling, West Virginia on Saturday the 29th. And we are really excited for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're expecting one on Monday in Johnson City, Tennessee, but that has not been confirmed yet. So stay tuned for that. And as you guys know, RSBN is donor supported, and you know these rallies are really expensive. We can't go without your help, and so we're really thankful that you guys can just help us to get there, and that we can just really be a voice for you and just an advocate for real news. As we really get in the crowds, as we interview people, it's such an honor that we're able to serve you guys in that way. So if you would like to donate and you haven't before, real quick, going to tell you the ways that you can do that. Thank you, Lady Justice, for that $10 donation. She donated on YouTube, so if you happen to be watching on YouTube right now, all you have to do is click the $sign at the bottom of the chat. That is the super chat button. Super easy, fun way to donate. Your name will come up in a bright color, and I will read the comment, of course, as long as it's appropriate. Share it with everyone. And speaking of donations, we just got one on YouTube from Cell CNN for $1. Great name. $5. Thank you for that $5 donation. And also there are a couple ways that you can donate on our website as well. So I'm going to show you guys how to get there if maybe you are new. So all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com, and I'm going to show you that webpage real quick. And really interesting, Melissa Smith says, the fake news is already pushing Rod is being fired, not resigning in disgrace in order to hurt Trump. Thank you for that update, Melissa. I know you guys are seeing just a lot of different things on both sides. It's kind of a mess, and some news, different news media outlets are still updating that he's not resigning today, he's not being fired, but he's meeting with President Trump on Thursday. So we're here to bring you the most accurate information as it comes out. And I'm sorry if you are seeing different things other places, but we are going to break it down and look at what they're saying as well. So those different ways that you can donate on our website, real quick, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com, and you click up at the top right here. Let me switch it over so you can see it. Okay, so you go to our website, and you can't see it right now, but there's a red bar above the right side, and it is the fourth tab over that says donate. So you click donate, and you will be able to see those different options. You can donate with PayPal or a credit card, which is a really fantastic way to donate because we actually get to keep 90% of that. So you enter the amount, and you know, on YouTube we only get to keep 70% of the donation. So PayPal is really nice in this way. So you enter the amount, debit or credit card information, or you know, if you already have a PayPal account, you can log in, and your billing address. And if you'd like to save this information and donate at a later time, you can do that as well. So you can also give a monthly donation. This is with Patreon, and Patreon is a really fun platform because you get something in return. You don't just give, but you get a little takeaway as well. You can get stickers, pens, pencils, tote bags, t-shirts, and of course RSBN mugs, which I'm going to show you guys. This one's really cool. It's just a classic white mug, but it has the RSBN logo on it, and my coffee right now. Anyways, Patreon's fun. Really thankful for all of those Patreon donors. And so I'm going to click that real quick just to show you how to get there. So you can click Become a Patron right here. And there's all different levels. So it's really just your preference all the way from entry level going down to the all access level. Now also, if you're not comfortable paying online, we really understand that and respect that. You can send a donation to our address here in Auburn, and you just write the check out to RSBN, and we are at 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. So that is our address. And wanted to take a second before we get back into this story, which is kind of a non-story, but right before I came on, it was announced that he would be meeting with President Trump on Thursday, that he was just at the White House for a normal meeting. And so I wanted to talk to you guys first before just, you know, blowing this off as a non-story, as fake news, which honestly it kind of was, but there were about 70 of you waiting on YouTube, so I was not just going to leave you hanging. Anyways, wanted to thank you guys, everyone that supported us to the last 2 rallies in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Springfield, Missouri. It was such a great time. I was so thankful to go with such a fantastic team in Las Vegas. It was myself, Bailey, and our cameraman, so a very small team, but really fun. We got to enjoy Vegas too the day before, just kind of walk around, get a feel for the city, and then the day of the rally was so much fun. Met some really fantastic patriots. Really a cool setup too, because President Trump was kind of in the middle of the convention center, so we were a little bit closer to him. So it was really cool just to see him again. And of course, Sean Hannity was there too, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Secretary of State Sarah Sanders, and it was really cool just to see all of them, even though it was from a distance. And then Springfield, Missouri was really fun. It was the first time I've done a red-eye flight overnight, and that was with our cameraman. So I wasn't traveling alone, so that was nice. But we had, you know, a 2-hour flight and then 2.5 layover in Dallas, and then another 2-hour flight. And so collectively I got about 6 hours of sleep, which was actually good. So I was very surprised that I had energy. And I think it was just the adrenaline from all of the other patriots that were literally lining the streets in Missouri. I think it was at least 4 blocks that the line went. It was a couple miles long. And everyone was just so excited and so sweet. And it was really awesome just to interview everyone. I don't believe I had anyone that had said no to interviewing. And so really just an honor that I was able to meet everyone and interact with them in another great rally. It was just so much fun. So kind of back to the story, I want to keep telling you guys what's going on. And like I said, really value your comments as well and your thoughts. Yes, Stephen Gill said, we were warned this week, the sky is falling. Ketan Sukla says, Trump won't fire him till after the election. And let's see. Kind of just going through your comments right now. Really appreciate everyone's comments and your thoughts, and want to check over on Facebook as well just to see what everyone has to say. This is a great comment from Vicky Bentley. She says, Thursday is when all the bombs will drop together. Kavanaugh will be voted in on Friday, and Rosenstein will be fired on Thursday. Perfect ending for the whole charade. Thank you, Vicky, for that comment. And Deanna Lynn Widerhold says, doesn't matter if he resigns or is fired, he will be indicted. Also awesome, thank you so much over on YouTube. We just got a $10 donation from Tariq Covington. Thank you so much, Tariq, who says, I want Rosenstein to resign. Then I would like to see Jeff Sessions unrecuse himself and take over fully. Also, Alyssa, you're beautiful. God bless America. Where we go one, we go all. Thank you so much, Tariq. Really appreciate your comment. And let's see, want to see what else you guys have to say. Some of you have some interesting nicknames for him. I'm not going to read those. But again, thank you for your comments. Really appreciate you guys. And I want to go through some more information about this. Also, that New York Times article that came out, I believe it was on Friday, that Rosenstein was actually wiretapping things that the president was saying. I have that. Hold on. But real quick, before we get there, just some information. This was from today, that Rod Rosenstein is considering resigning. No, John Smith, he has not resigned yet. There have just been a lot of reports that he is considering it. So Rod Rosenstein, Deputy Attorney General, was considering resigning on Monday, and this is from the New York Times, days after private discussions were revealed in which he talked about invoking the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office and secretly taping him to expose chaos in the administration. Over the weekend, Rosenstein called a White House official and said he was considering quitting, and a person close to the White House said he was resigning. On Monday morning, Mr. Rosenstein was on his way to the White House to meet with President Trump's Chief of Staff, John Kelly. President Trump was in New York for the United Nations General Assembly, and it was not clear whether he would accept a resignation, fire Mr. Rosenstein, or allow him to remain in the job. So a departure by Rosenstein would likely thrust the administration into further turmoil just weeks before November's midterm elections. As the top Justice Department official overseeing the investigation by Robert Mueller, the special counsel, Rosenstein has long been a target of President Trump's bitter grievance about what he calls a politically motivated witch hunt. And Rosenstein had been a fierce defender of Mueller, repeatedly refusing to consider firing him despite accusations by President Trump and his allies that the special counsel is part of a Democratic conspiracy to undermine his presidency. His potential departure prompted immediate questions about whether Trump would seek next to topple Mueller, only to be talked down by his White House counsel. Now, the turmoil in Washington was heightened by the sense of uncertainty surrounding the specifics of the situation, which you saw a lot of this morning, which came as President Trump was in New York for meetings with world leaders. As reports emerged that Rosenstein was headed for the White House, President Trump and top aides returned to Trump Tower from meetings at the UN to huddle behind closed doors, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions was on a flight back to Washington from Alabama and expected to land early in the afternoon. So the potential changes at the Justice Department exploded into public view even as Brett Kavanaugh, the president's nominee to the Supreme Court, confronted a second allegation of sexual misconduct, roiling the nomination effort on Capitol Hill and prompting President Trump to defend him once again. And if Rosenstein exits, Noel Francisco, the Solicitor General, would assume oversight of the Russia investigation, according to a Justice Department official. And the acting Deputy Attorney General would be Matthew Whitaker, the Chief of Staff to Attorney General Jeff Sessions, an unusual move. Typically, a top aide to the Deputy Attorney General would take over the job. So it is not known whether President Trump may use the new turmoil at the Justice Department to fire Attorney General Jeff Sessions, a one-time political ally who became the #1 target of President Trump when Sessions recused himself from overseeing the Russia investigation. So Rosenstein's departure would end what has been an often toxic relationship between Rosenstein and the president that at numerous times left Washington on edge about the potentially drastic consequences for the country if President Trump terminated the Deputy Attorney General. So in a Twitter rant in April about what President Trump called the fake and corrupt Russia investigation, President Trump accused Rosenstein of being one of the most conflicted members of the Justice Department, asserting that a Deputy Attorney General was among those who were seeking evidence of a Trump-led conspiracy, and President Trump wrote, "No collusion, so they go crazy." Now, after President Trump refused to express confidence in Rosenstein in May, the Deputy Attorney General took a swipe back at the president, and during a speech in New York City, Rosenstein alluded to the verbal beating he had taken from President Trump. And he said, "The dictionary defines piling on as joining other people in criticizing someone, usually in an unfair manner. I also have experience with that." Now, throughout the summer, President Trump's allies on Capitol Hill continued to attack Rosenstein. In July, 11 House lawmakers filed articles of impeachment against him, accusing Rosenstein of having conflicts of interest when it comes to the Russia investigation. And the impeachment effort, which did not have the support of House Republican leaders, made little progress. But it heightened the frustration the president and some Republicans have had with Rosenstein's refusal to exceed their demands to provide documents about the Russia inquiry. So top Republican lawmakers spent months wrangling over information pertaining to an open Justice Department investigations, and Democratic opponents have said that those increasing demands were meant to corner Rosenstein and eventually push him to compromise the integrity of the investigations or to resign. So Rosenstein has been locked in those increasingly acrimonious negotiations with Representatives Robert Goodlatte of Virginia and Trey Gowdy of South Carolina, who run the committees that conduct oversight of the Justice Department, Representative Devin Nunes of California, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and Representatives Mark Meadows of North Carolina and Jim Jordan of Ohio, who led the House Freedom Caucus, all lawmakers who have close ties to President Trump. So many of those Republicans have called the Russia investigation into question, and it was Rosenstein, a 28-year-old employee of the Justice Department, and its #2 official who appointed Mueller to oversee the investigation last year after it was revealed that President Trump had asked Mr. Comey to quash an inquiry into his former national security advisor. So Rosenstein himself has overseen Mueller's investigation into whether President Trump's campaign worked with Moscow and whether the president obstructed justice in the Russia inquiry. So in April, it was Rosenstein who personally signed off on the FBI raid of the office and hotel room of Michael Cohen, President Trump's former personal lawyer and long-time confidant, according to government officials. And the raid sent the president into a rage in which he complained that the witch hunt against him had reached a whole new level of unfairness. Now, days after the raid on the lawyer, President Trump mused aloud about doing so. President Trump actually considered terminating Rosenstein in summer of 2017. In a tweet, President Trump complained that he was being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director. Witch hunt. That was his tweet. And President Trump has repeatedly told associates of his frustration with Rosenstein, according to one official familiar with the conversations, who requested that he remain anonymous to discuss personnel matters. And the emergence early this year of a memo by congressional Republicans made by Rosenstein's position even more precarious because it accused him of acting inappropriately when he signed off on the FBI's request to surveil a former Trump campaign advisor, Carter Page. In the memo, described Rosenstein as one of the senior Justice Department officials who approved an application to extend surveillance of Mr. Page, and it suggested that those applications deliberately avoided mentioning that they were based in part on information in a dossier paid for by the Democrats. But a memo later by Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee undercut those claims, revealing that law enforcement officials had been forthcoming about their sources of the information they cited in seeking permission to surveil Mr. Page. So conservatives nonetheless seized on the Republican document, which officials at the Justice Department and the FBI said omitted key facts as grounds for demanding Mr. Rosenstein's head. And the Tea Party Patriots, a political group, produced a dramatic ad calling him a weak careerist at the Justice Department, protecting liberal Obama holdovers and the deep state instead of following on the rule of law, and they called on him to resign. So definitely not popular. A lot of people really do not like him. And so I also want to know your thoughts. And please let me know whether or not you think Rosenstein should stay in office as Deputy Attorney General, whether he should resign or whether President Trump should fire him. Let me know which you think would be more beneficial. I'm going to be checking your comments in just 1 second. Okay, so like I said, wanted to check some of your comments, and I saw some good ones here on YouTube. Kathy Sanders said Rosenstein helped set up the deep state fake Mueller investigation while playing both sides. Trump should kick him to the curb. So thank you for that, Kathy Sanders. And going to also check over on Facebook and see what you guys have to say there. Priscilla Elliott says he should resign and run for the hills. Steve Adams says fire him, fire him. And Henry Zilbeck says revoke passport and security clearance. Okay, and also want to check on the original New York Times article that came out on Friday that kind of started this whole thing. Okay, so 2 days ago, it came out on the New York Times that Rod Rosenstein suggested secretly recording President Trump and discussed the 25th Amendment. So this is from the New York Times. Kind of started this whole thing. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein suggested last year that he'd secretly recorded President Trump in the White House to expose the chaos consuming the administration, and he discussed recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office for being unfit. Now, Rosenstein made these suggestions in spring of 2017 when President Trump's firing of James Comey as FBI director plunged the White House into turmoil. Over the ensuing days, the president divulged classified intelligence to Russians in the Oval Office, and revelations emerged that President Trump had asked Comey to pledge loyalty and end an investigation into a senior aide. So Rosenstein was just 2 weeks into his job. He had begun overseeing the Russia investigation and actually played a key role in the president's dismissal of Mr. Comey by writing a memo critical of his handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. But Rosenstein was caught off guard when President Trump cited the memo in the firing, and he began telling people that he feared he had been used. Now, Rosenstein made the remarks about secretly recording President Trump and about the 25th Amendment in meetings and conversations with other Justice Department and FBI officials. And several people described the episodes in interviews over the past several months, insisting that they be anonymous to discuss internal deliberations. And the people were briefed either on the events themselves or on memos written by FBI officials, including Andrew McCabe, the acting bureau director, that documented Rosenstein's actions and comments. So none of Mr. Rosenstein's proposals came to fruition. It is not clear how determined he was about seeing them through, though he did not tell McCabe that he might be able to persuade Attorney General Jeff Sessions and John Kelly, then the Secretary of Homeland Security and now the White House Chief of Staff, to mount an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment. So the extreme suggestions show Rosenstein's state of mind in the disorienting days that followed Mr. Comey's dismissal, and sitting in on President Trump's interviews with prospective FBI directors and facing attacks for his own role in Mr. Comey's firing. Rosenstein had an up-close view of the tumult, and he appeared conflicted, regretful, and emotional, according to people who spoke with him at the time. And he disputed this account. Rosenstein said, "The New York Times story is inaccurate and factually incorrect. I will not further comment on a story based on anonymous sources who are obviously biased against the department and are advancing their own personal agenda. But let me be clear about this. Based on my personal dealings with the president, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment." And a Justice Department spokeswoman also provided a statement from a person who was present when Mr. Rosenstein proposed wearing a wire, and the person, who would not be named, acknowledged the remark but said Mr. Rosenstein made it sarcastically. But according to the others who described his comments, Mr. Rosenstein not only confirmed that he was serious about the idea, but also followed up by suggesting that other FBI officials who were interviewing to be the Bureau's director could also secretly record President Trump. Now, Mr. McCabe, who was later fired from the FBI, declined to comment. His memos have been turned over to Special Counsel Robert Mueller III in the investigation into whether President Trump associates conspired with Russia's election interference, according to a lawyer for Mr. McCabe. And a set of those memos remained at the FBI at the time of his departure in late January 2018, the lawyer Michael Bromwich said of his client. And he also said he has no knowledge of how any member of the media obtained those memos. Now, the revelations about Mr. Rosenstein come as President Trump has unleashed another round of attacks on federal law enforcement, saying in an interview with the newspaper The Hill that he hopes his assaults on the FBI turn out to be one of his crowning achievements, and he only wished he had terminated Comey sooner. President Trump said, "If I did make one mistake with Comey, I should have fired him before I got here. I should have fired him the day I won the primaries." He said, "I should have fired him right after the convention, say I don't want that guy, or at least fired him the first day on the job." Now, days after ascending to the role of the nation's #2 law enforcement officer, Rosenstein was thrust into a crisis. On a brisk May day, Rosenstein and his boss, Mr. Sessions, who had recused himself from the Russia investigation because of his role as a prominent Trump campaign supporter, joined President Trump in the Oval Office, and the president informed them of his plan to oust Mr. Comey, and to the surprise of White House aides who were trying to talk the president out of it, Rosenstein embraced the idea, even offering to write the memo about the Clinton email inquiry, and he turned it in shortly after. Now, a day later, President Trump announced the firing, and White House aides released Rosenstein's memo, labeling it on the basis for Mr. Comey's dismissal. And Democrats sharply criticized Rosenstein, accusing him of helping to create a cover story for the president to rationalize the termination. And Senator Christopher Murphy, who's a Democrat from Connecticut, wrote on Twitter, "You wrote a memo you knew would be used to perpetuate a lie. You own this debacle." And the president's reliance on this memo caught Mr. Rosenstein by surprise, and he became angry at President Trump. According to people who spoke to Rosenstein at the time, he grew concerned that his reputation had suffered harm. And a determined Mr. Rosenstein began telling associates he would immediately be vindicated for his role in the matter. 1 week after the firing, Rosenstein met with McCabe and at least 4 other senior Justice Department officials, in part really just to explain his role in this situation. Also, during this discussion, Rosenstein expressed frustration at how President Trump had conducted the search for a new FBI director, saying the president was failing to take the candidate interviews seriously, and a handful of politicians and law enforcement officials, including McCabe, were under consideration. So, to Rosenstein, the hiring process was emblematic of broader dysfunction stemming from the White House. He said both the process and the administration itself were in disarray, according to 2 people familiar with the discussion. And also real quick, I am checking over on Twitter just to make sure you guys haven't sent me any messages yet or mentioned me. I have a couple mentions from the original Slevo, who says treason. Charge for RR. Thank you so much, Original, for that. Really appreciate you. And going to see what else you guys have to say. And this is not about Rosenstein, but just saw a great tweet from Tom O'Neill, who is one of our fantastic reporters, about Kavanaugh. He says the accusers are slanderous liberal activists, and this is nothing more than another political witch hunt. Future Justice Brett Kavanaugh will be appointed to the United States Supreme Court for a lifetime, and he will make us so proud. Hashtag I stand with Kavanaugh. Hashtag confirm Kavanaugh now. Thank you, Tom, for that. What a great tweet. And I also want to pull it up on Twitter and see what people are saying about Rosenstein, and we can kind of go through those together, as I'm sure it is trending right now. Okay, and I also have that statement that I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast from Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, and I will share that with you guys. Thank you so much, some of our moderators, for tweeting that over on Twitter. Okay, so Sarah Sanders said, At the request of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, he and President Trump had an extended conversation to discuss the recent news stories because the president is at the United Nations General Assembly and has a full schedule with leaders from around the world. They will meet on Thursday when the president returns to Washington, D.C. So really thankful that she published that statement, really just to clear everything up, because there was really just a lot of confusion. Okay, I'm going through now. I want to see, before we wrap this up, really just what people had to say about this on Twitter. This is a good tweet, if you can see it, from Erin Peoria. She says, Thursday is an interesting choice of days to meet. It's not like there's anything else going on that day. Nice distraction, not #Rosenstein. And let's see, pulling some more information for you guys. I want to answer your questions well. Okay, so one of our regular viewers and members over on YouTube, JC, asked me who would replace Rod Rosenstein if he resigned or was fired. So he would be replaced by Solicitor General Noel Francisco, and this is from the New York Post. So Francisco would assume oversight of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. Now, Francisco was confirmed to the post in September 2017 by a 50-47 vote in the Senate. He was a clerk for Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, and he served in the Justice Department during the George W. Bush administration. He had also worked on Bush's legal team during the 2000 election and election year recount in Florida, and was a partner in the law firm that represented former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell in his corruption case before the Supreme Court. Now, the court ruled in McDonnell's favor, and if the 49-year-old Francisco takes over the Mueller investigation, he could allow it to continue, narrow its scope, or end it. And in past testimony, he's argued against the need for special counsels and in favor of allowing the president broad executive powers. Now, testifying in 2007 before a congressional panel investigating Bush's firing of 9 U.S. attorneys, Francisco, who was then a private lawyer, defended the administration's actions. And he said, I don't think it would be appropriate for the Department of Justice to appoint a special counsel. And he said, my own personal belief is that when you hand these issues off to career prosecutors in the public integrity sections in the U.S. attorney's offices in the Department of Justice, those attorneys are generally better able to assess whether a case should be pursued. And he also said he believed that conversations between administration officials should be protected by executive privilege, even if Bush wasn't involved in the discussions, concluding that it would ultimately be up to the court to decide. And Francisco represented the U.S. as a Solicitor General in a case before the Supreme Court in April that delved into whether the president has a constitutional power to fire all officers of the United States. And Francisco wrote in the case, the Constitution gives the president what the framers saw as the traditional means of ensuring accountability, the power to oversee executive officers through removal. The president is accordingly authorized under our constitutional system to remove all principal officers as well as inferior officers he has appointed. So I want to take a look back at some of those tweets as it's still trending on Twitter. This one's good. This is from Derek in Design. He says, first, Rosenstein just resigned. Then, Rosenstein was fired. Now, Rosenstein never really existed in the first place. And here's a tweet just with a picture of him. It says, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's future is on the rocks. Definitely is. And here's one from Representative Adam Schiff. It says, under no circumstances should Rod Rosenstein resign. This would place the Mueller investigation in even greater jeopardy. Rosenstein should continue to do his job, protect the independence of the DOJ, and if the president intends to obstruct justice, force President Trump to fire him. And you can see just 56 minutes ago, update from the Associated Press. Breaking, White House, Trump, Rosenstein spoke Monday, will meet Thursday at the White House amid uncertainty about Deputy Attorney General's fate. Now, they did have a phone conversation today because President Trump is at the not at the White House. He is in New York at the United Nations General Assembly meeting. And here is an update from Fox News. Rosenstein to meet with President Trump in wake of wire report amid firing speculation. So President Trump, we're kind of just going to work through this article together. I want to give you guys the most recent update since there was so much confusion this morning. So this is from Fox News. President Trump is scheduled to meet with Rod Rosenstein on Thursday, the White House said, seeming to tamp down a speculation that the Deputy Attorney General faces the prospect of an immediate firing over a damaging press report. The number 2 justice official, who frequently finds himself in the political crosshairs due to his role overseeing the special counsel Russia's probe and involvement in other controversies, was the subject of numerous conflicting reports late Monday morning. One initial report indicated the embattled official had already quit, while sources told Fox News and other outlets that he was heading to the White House, expecting to be fired in the wake of a story claiming he suggested wearing a wire against President Trump and invoking the 25th Amendment to remove him from office last year. But the White House put out a brief statement saying Rosenstein and President Trump will meet Thursday, apparently to continue discussing that story when the president returns from New York. And White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said in her statement, which I just showed you guys a little bit earlier, she said, at the request of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, he and President Trump had an extended conversation to discuss the recent news stories because the president is at the United Nations General Assembly and has a full schedule with leaders from around the world. They will meet on Thursday when the president returns to Washington, D.C. And Rosenstein on Monday was attending a previously scheduled Principals Committee meeting at the White House in place of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who was en route to Washington from Alabama. And a source actually told Fox News that he has neither resigned nor been fired. He is still Deputy Attorney General for now. So Rosenstein's fate remains unclear in the run-up to the scheduled meeting with President Trump. And discussions were held over the weekend between Rosenstein and White House Chief of Staff John Kelly about the possibility of Rosenstein resigning, though a source said Rosenstein did not actually offer to resign in those talks. So meanwhile, Rosenstein, who oversees Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe into Russia's interference in the 2016 election, has denied that a bombshell report in the New York Times on Friday. He said the New York Times story is inaccurate and factually incorrect. I will not further comment on a story based on anonymous sources who are obviously biased against the departure and are advancing their own personal agenda. But let me be clear about this. Based on my personal dealings with the president, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment. So in the wake of the Times report, Democrats have warned President Trump not to remove Rosenstein. If Rosenstein were to leave office, U.S. Solicitor General Noel Francisco would be in line to oversee the Russia probe. Now, the New York Times report said Rosenstein had discussed wearing a wire to tape President Trump and pursuing his removal from office in meetings and conversations with Justice Department and FBI officials. And this would have been in the tumultuous days after James Comey was fired as FBI director, with the president citing in part a memo penned by Rosenstein, reportedly catching him off guard. And Fox News has learned one key meeting took place on May 16, 2017 at Justice Department headquarters. Several people were in the room, including former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and former FBI counsel Lisa Page. Mueller was appointed as a special counsel the next day. So according to the Times, none of Rosenstein's proposals were acted upon, and it remains unclear the level of seriousness Rosenstein had when making the suggestions. So one source who was in the room told Fox News that the statement was sarcastic and was never discussed with any intention of recording a conversation with the president. So further, the Washington Post quoted an unnamed individual saying Rosenstein quipped sarcastically after McCabe pushed for an investigation into the president. And he said, "What do you want to do, Andy? Wire the president?" And the Times quoted other sources who said Rosenstein was serious, however. Now, Rosenstein, 53, has been targeted by Republicans for months. In July, Representatives Mark Meadows of North Carolina and Jim Jordan of Ohio, the chairman and a prominent member of the conservative House Freedom Caucus, introduced 5 articles of impeachment against Rosenstein. And those impeachment articles accuse Rosenstein of intentionally withholding documents and information from Congress, failure to comply with congressional subpoenas, and abuse in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And that effort was referred to the House Judiciary Committee, where it had not been voted upon. So before named by President Trump to serve as the number 2 to Attorney General Jeff Sessions, Rosenstein served as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland. And Rosenstein took over the Russia probe after Sessions recused himself last year. So before we wrap it up, as you guys know, I value your interaction and comments so much. And so I want to just check those real quick over on Twitter and YouTube and make sure you don't have any more questions or comments for me. Okay, so no more questions on Twitter, but I am going to check Facebook real quick. And over on Facebook, Marcella Pierce says, let him resign, then prosecute him for his sedition, revoke all security clearances. Okay. So going to wrap this up right now. Really thankful for all of you for watching. It was a crazy morning, kind of confusing as just, you know, different reports were coming out from various news sources. I don't know if you guys were following those. Some were saying that he was going to resign. Some were saying that he was going to be fired when President Trump was not even there in the White House. He was in New York and still is at the United Nations General Assembly meeting. So after a phone call just about an hour ago from President Trump and Rosenstein, they spoke together over the phone, decided that they would meet on Thursday. So Thursday is going to be a crazy day just with the Kavanaugh hearings and now Rosenstein as well. Stay tuned. Really thankful. We won't be traveling Thursday so that I can bring you guys all of this. It's going to be insane. So stay tuned, and thank you all so much for watching Right Side Broadcasting Network. Appreciate each and every single one of you. I'm so thankful for you, and just that I get to bring you the news daily. And we'll probably be bringing you some updates this afternoon as well. But if not, stay tuned for my nightly news recap tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all for watching. And once again, for Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Melissa Ash.